here on CBS Sports HQ. Week 0 in college football is this weekend, and we're already skipping ahead and looking forward to the CFP, right? We are getting our predictions out. So we have Bryant McFadden's CFP prediction that we are going to go through and reveal. I know we got a lot of question marks on the board right now, but we'll talk about all the teams that BMAC sees and who ultimately the national championship pick is for BMAC. BMAC, we appreciate you. Great to see you. We're looking at your prediction, and we have only one ACC team in and only one team from the Big 12 that is in your field. Who are they, and why only one from these respective conferences?
Well, they are Clemson, as you see there in your graphic, Jacqueline. Clemson and Arizona State. And the reason why I only have one team from the ACC, one team from the Big 12 getting in is because of this new information that was just revealed to us with the NCAA now utilizing a new metric system to determine the value of teams that should get into the playoffs. Based on the information that has been provided to all of us, they're really going to value the second half of the season in terms of each respectable team that believes they're playoff worthy. So now if you factor that into the equation, high-level conferences with a lot of competitive teams will benefit from this new metric system, a la the SEC, a la the Big Ten. And unfortunately, it kind of pushes other conferences behind the 8 ball, to say the least. When you look at the ACC, when you look at the Big 12, potentially not having as many ranked teams that the Big Ten and the SEC will have. So that's why I kind of assembled my prediction this way, because of this new metric system that really will value second half strength of schedules, which would be more in favor of the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah, we saw 4 SEC teams, right? 4 Big Ten teams that we're seeing in your field there. And we have Notre Dame and Indiana set for a first-round rematch. But as we see it here, this time it is going to be in Bloomington. So how much is that going to alter the outcome this go-around, BMAC?
Well, the thing I love about this matchup is because when you look at what happened a year ago, when Jeremiah Love took that touchdown, 90-plus yards, that kind of broke everything over for Notre Dame. Indiana could not get out of their own way. I think we see a different outcome because of the experience Indiana gained a year ago, along with having a more talented team, in my opinion. When you look at Curt Cignetti, he's like the Mike Tomlin of college football. All he does is win. Head coach, 14 years, never experienced a losing season. I do believe this team is more talented, as I mentioned. Not to mention you have experience at the quarterback position with Mendoza coming over, transferring from California. I love everything about this Indiana team. I don't know why so many people are sleeping on the Hoosiers. We're not talking basketball. Yes, we're talking football, but you have to put some respect on the Hoosiers football team, because I do believe they're coached the right way and they play football the right way as well. And that's why I have them coming out on top in this rematch against Notre Dame in my playoff prediction.
Yeah, you're right. I've done a lot of these CFP predictions, and not a lot of our analysts have Indiana going through. So we have Indiana moving forward and then facing Clemson in the next round. If we look at all of our first-round matchups, there is an upset that is happening, and we have to go to the 10 versus 7 matchup with LSU. So not only do you have Brian Kelly leading LSU to a CFP berth, but then also getting a win, BMAC.
Yeah, and this will be a great matchup. To your point, Jacqueline, 10 versus 7, 2 rivalries, Alabama, LSU. I have LSU coming out on top because I trust a little more in their quarterback position with Garrett Nussmeier, more so than Ty Simpson. Of course, we will be starting for Alabama, but this is a must. This needs to happen for Brian Kelly. This is a must-have. He has to find a way to get into the playoffs. He has to find a way to shake up a few tables in the playoffs as well. This is a talented team. Once again, one of the top transfer portal classes in college football. They're always in the top 10 in terms of high school recruiting. Now it's time to put that talent on display. Put it on film. I think this is the year, Jacqueline. I think this is the year for LSU, not to only get into the playoffs, but also to get a win in the playoffs.
All right, and they have a hot start right out of the gate facing Clemson week 1, where we know their record hasn't been very good in season openers, right? Want to go back to Big Ten teams, 4 Big Ten teams that we have, and they're all in the quarterfinals in Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, and Penn State, BMAC.
Yeah, this is the cream of the crop in terms of the Big Ten, in my opinion, and what I think we will see this season. Penn State is arguably the most talented team, not just in the Big Ten, Jacqueline, but in all of college football. They have talent, they have experience, and of course they're well coached. We just need to see James Franklin coach well in these prime time moments. Ohio State, I understand there's a lot of change happening with Ohio State, but they still have a lot of talent, arguably the best, not arguably, the best college football player in Jeremiah Smith, which actually will help Julian Saying just have a lot to say in terms of being positive and productive with his play. And I love everything about Oregon. I mean, Oregon, in terms of their ability to be physical, Dan Lennon has really built a nice, well-oiled machine there in Oregon. And I understand, new quarterback, but one thing we know about Oregon and quarterbacks, it doesn't matter. They find a way to get the best. Bo Nix left, in comes Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel had an outstanding year as well. So I think the same thing could be the same for Oregon with this upcoming season. And I've already raved about Indiana. So I love what I'm seeing from the Big Ten in terms of the 4 teams that I have getting in.
Want to go back to Ohio State because you mentioned arguably probably the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith that is on their roster, and how you have it laid out in a quarterfinal matchup. Ohio State is taking on UGA, but you have Georgia beating the defending champ. So what about these two rosters makes you feel like you give a slight edge to the Bulldogs if they were to go head-to-head in a CFP quarterfinal matchup?
Well, I give the edge to UGA because of the experience they have, right? You talk about Ohio State championship team a year ago, they lost a lot, not to mention both coordinators offensively and defensively. So they have to replace that. But in terms of this matchup, the experience that UGA has at their disposal, and not to mention the coaching. I, for one, know Kirby firsthand. He coached me my sophomore year at Florida State. And one thing he knows about perennial high-level matchups, you have to make the opposing team play with their left hand. And what I mean when I say that, take away their best asset, their best asset. So in this matchup, I visualize Kirby Smart having a heck of a game plan against Jeremiah Smith, Cornell Tate, to make the other players in that offense beat them. I think that will put more pressure on the young quarterback in Julian Saying, not to mention the blitz concepts that Kirby loves to rely on in situational moments. I think that could be a tall task for Ohio State. That's why I have UGA advancing in this matchup. But listen, that's another high-level matchup. We just talked about 10 versus 7 with Alabama and LSU. Now you're talking about Ohio State and Georgia. I mean, who don't want to see that, Jacqueline? Who wouldn't want to see that?
I will say, BMAC, through all of these predictions that I have going on, I'm like, fingers crossed, because we get so many amazing matchups that we're like trying to speak into existence, right? We would all love to see Ohio State and Georgia. So far in your prediction, you have Clemson and Texas matching up in the semis, and then the other semi is UGA and Penn State, who, by the way, BMAC, every team that has a bye has made it to the semis. So we didn't necessarily see that last season. So why do you think this season would be different? We always have that rest versus rust conversation, right?
Because of what happened last year, the teams that had a bye, they had an early exit out the playoffs. So I think coaches will understand that and put more of an emphasis in that bye week, getting back to the basics, attention to detail, to be able to have a rhythm for that opening round game. So I think that will play a major part in more success for the teams that will have a bye compared to a year ago.
All right, so they'll take it, they'll learn from it. So let's push it forward. We all mapped out the semis that you have, but the national championship game that you're predicting, BMAC, is Clemson and Penn State. So who do you ultimately see winning the title game?
I have Clemson winning the title game. I don't know why people are slipping on the Clemson Tigers. Let's go back to a year ago. The job that Dabo Swinney did with Clemson, that roster, getting into the playoffs, and that was a close ball game for a few quarters against Texas. I think that was an amazing job. He did more with less. Now he has more. When you look at the personnel, he has an NFL quarterback. He has 2 legit NFL wide receivers. He has a quality NFL defensive line unit, not to mention a high-level cornerback as well. They have a lot of pros on that Clemson team. And I'm not saying Penn State, they don't have the same luxury, but one thing I can say in terms of coaching, if you had to compare and do a coaching matchup in this ball game, in this national championship game, I think the consensus in terms of football minds would take Dabo Swinney over James Franklin. No knock on James Franklin. We just seen more from Dabo Swinney in these high-level matchups, standing up to the test and delivering the goods. We're still waiting on James Franklin to deliver the goods. One thing about Dabo Swinney, he knocks on that door. He gives you the goods that you need. Along with the personnel that I mentioned, I love this matchup. And not arguably, Clemson has the best defensive line in college football. They got 4 legit pros. When you have 4 pros on the defensive line, that's a tall task for any offensive line unit to ask of them to hold up against. And we know one thing about football, any level, games are won and lost in the trenches. The trenches will be an advantage for Clemson. I have Clemson coming out on top, winning the national championship.
Yeah, to your point, Dabo, he's done it before. He's been there, right? BMAC, we appreciate it. The Tigers, by the way, 12-1. You can get them at those odds to win the Natty. All right, the Big Ten on CBS returns August 30th, and that is Nevada at Penn State to kick things off. Our own Jenny Dell is going to be on the sidelines for that matchup August 30th at 3:30 Eastern, and you can watch it on Paramount Plus as well.